What is the true cost of motorcycle shopping? And you're probably all thinking, jumping ahead, think, oh, Sean's going to talk about the price of the bike and financing, PCP deals, we got servicing, and then we got on the road charges, delivery, we got the accessories you got to add, blah, blah, blah. That is all what you could describe as a cost to shopping and purchasing a new motorcycle. But what I'm talking about today actually has a lot more value than pure financials. The thing I'm going to talk about, you got to guess, you can guess ahead for this part, is quite diffuse. It's something that people don't really value, people don't really measure it accurately or give it the importance it deserves. If you have plenty of this thing, you generally don't really care about it, whereas when you run out of it, then it becomes very, very important to you. So like a riddle, you could probably guess, it's time. And when you run down that rabbit hole, as I've done many times, of shopping and dreaming and fantasizing about motorcycles, you end up draining this precious resource that we only have a finite amount of. And rather than enjoying a motorcycle you already have in your garage or in your shed, oh, some of us are lucky enough to have several motorcycles. We've got 8 weeks of beautiful sunshine. You're upstairs, bent over the computer like Gollum, my precious, looking at Auto Trader. All these tabs open, Facebook's open, owner's reviews. Can you tell me about this bike? And we go down this rabbit hole and it just spirals. And weeks have gone by, months gone by, and we've actually neglected to ride the bike we already had, the bike that was meant to be the best thing ever, the best thing since sliced bread. And this all starts from an idea. It's like Inception, you know the film Inception, when they put ideas in people's heads? We're not walking through a meadow with a little bubbling brook and the birds and the bees and the wildlife and little deer trotting across. Picture the scene. We're not doing that, and all of a sudden, whew, bolt of lightning, and suddenly like an idea appears in your head to buy a Honda CB1000 GT. And you, oh, okay, wow, I've just had enlightenment. That's what I'm meant to be doing. That's my path in life, to buy this bike. It doesn't happen like that. It's incoming signals from corporations that want you to buy their stuff. It's capitalism, it's the consumerist mindset. And so this message comes towards you from newspapers, from TV, from the YouTube and the Instagram and the social medias. And then that like enlightens, little spark, little dopamine hit, you get a little fizz of adrenaline. Oh, could I have a new bike? My life would be better if I had a new bike. I could do this. I'd be an adventurer. I'd be a racer. I'd be cool if I had a cruiser. Everything is geared up around my life would be better if I had X, Y, Z. So the researching begins. The task is up front. Your new mission in life is to constantly go online and check everything. And you're looking at specs, you're looking at trim levels, you're looking at colours, you're looking at the tyres, you're looking at the reviews, and you end up kind of down this crazy rabbit hole where weeks go by, you know, months have elapsed, and you're thinking, oh, shall I invest? But it's getting to the end of the summer. What about the financing? How do I get all that in place? Maybe the 2027 model's better. Some bad reviews have come up online. You've watched all the content that you can find, and you've basically become, rather than a motorcyclist, you've become a shopper, and you've become someone who is consuming content. You're telling yourself that this is under the umbrella of research, but really it's not doing due diligence. It's procrastination and it's distraction. And to be honest, it's a little bit of laziness as well, because you're not really focused, you're not really efficient, you're not achieving anything. You're not making lists of pros and cons of each bike and logically deducing which one is good and which one would be fit. Most of the time you're enacting or walking through a confirmation bias. So you already want the bike because you feel your life will be better if X, Y, Z happens and that bike comes into your life. It'll change you as a person, it'll make things better. But you're just waiting for someone else to tell you that that's the right decision. And this is a real thing which I've experienced myself. So you want a bike and you go online and look at the reviews and someone else says, you should buy that bike. And you think, okay, well, thanks for telling me that, I should do something. I'll go ahead and do it now and I'll spend my own money. And this is quite dangerous because you're weakening your own ability to be decisive and make decisions that are in your own interest, because you're becoming a follower, not a leader. You don't need to be a leader of people or a leader of companies. You can just be a leader of your own thoughts. As simple as that. And I think that going online and spending time absorbing and just downloading all this information about somebody telling you what you should do is quite detrimental to your overall health. But there's a huge time sink to it. And we only have a short window of summer here in the UK. And you only have a set number of summers left in your worldly existence. And you'll spend that time shopping instead of riding. It's crazy how this cycle sort of traps people, me included. And I think it's really something that we should mention and kind of discuss more openly. The other thing about this research is, it's not kind of neutral, is it? It's not like you're reading some books on a subject. I'm reading about the birds of the garden. I'm reading about, how to control brambles and nettles. Something wholesome. You're online, you're hunched over, blue light blaring. You've got all these scrolls coming up, people are telling you what to do. It disrupts your sleep, it lowers your mood, it's kind of anxiety inducing. It's not really a healthy thing to be doing. I would say it's probably better to go to a bike meet and talk to people face to face about their experiences with a bike than spend all this time online, what we would call researching the new purchase. And when you're at the point where you've made the decision to go ahead and purchase, and then you go online, you do one more review and somebody says, they put one of those clickbaity titles that says like, I thought this was the bike for me, but, and you think, damn, I've got to click on it. So you click on it, and someone will drop this clanger that, oh my God, the fuel tank's tiny and the range on this MT-09 is, or MT, which one is the one with no range? One of the MTs. Range is only 80 miles, you've got to refill it. You think, oh damn, I was going to go touring. It's thrown a spanner in the works, like palpitations are happening. You're at that point where you were then committed to purchase and someone else has sort of unsettled you. So it's not a very wholesome way to learn this information. It's very kind of anxious and frantic and unsettled, and like I say, the whole medium of social media has negatives outside of the fact that you're shopping and not riding. Even when you do buy the new bike, say you get through all that, you've accepted that you've given your time, which remember is totally a finite resource, and your money, which you can then give more time to earn back. So money, although you can earn a lot of money, it's still dependent on your time, which is the base resource that we only have a set amount of. This new bike arrives and it gives that new smell. Oh, look at the TFT dash and how crisp the exhaust is. And I spent the extra money on the Aquapovich. You just get like that buzz, that fizz of excitement. New bike, people even got new bike day. Oh, brilliant, we've purchased something, it's all worth it. I've got, new jacket to go with it and everything like that. But then 6 months down the line, and the sort of like gloss has worn off, isn't it? The little niggles that you heard in the reviews but you didn't pay attention to because you were doing that confirmation bias, they're now there. The centre stand's a bit low, it scrapes when you go around the corners, or the tyres are a bit crap from factory, all this stuff. And the new bike kind of just becomes another object. And then what happens is you start to stray again, don't you? Your eyes start wandering. Somebody even said to me, I said, why did you get rid of your Gold Star? He'll know he's watching this video. Why did you get rid of your Gold Star? And he said, well, it was a bit familiar. You can't get rid of your wife, can you? But you can change your bike, which I thought was really funny. No, you can't get rid of your wife. Definitely can't do that. But yeah, basically the familiarity, and you're not accepting the bike as it is. So you're then on the wheel of consumerism, buying something new and expending this precious resource to do it. Wouldn't it be better just to have a wholesome relationship with the bike you've already got, accept what that bike is for its flaws and enjoy it as it is? So a good example for me is the Gold Star. The Gold Star was the first bike that I've gone, right, fit and finish is not perfect. Obviously it's got 45 horsepower, not 145. The tyres are a bit crap from the factory. It has got some problems. Mine's got some electrical issues as we speak, which I'm getting repaired under warranty. But I accept the bike for what it is. The accessories are quite expensive from BSA. But the bike itself is a flawed machine, but I've now kept that bike. I've stuck with it. I've built up an experience which I've shared with the bike. So the bike to me now is not some kind of object to be discarded. It's like a faithful friend. I think that's the stage you need to get to with bikes. And then it's almost like you're cheating on the friendship, aren't you? It's disloyal. You've got a bike that you love and you can enjoy and you can stick with, or you can wander out into the thing and blow your cash on a new model. I mean, the trick is just to be so precious with the time you've got, the riding seasons you've got, the bikes you've got, and just try and appreciate everything that we have, rather than always seeing the next best thing and going down that rabbit hole of obsession and consumerism, which can be totally avoided. Now with this Lexmoto, this was also a bit of a learning experience for me because I didn't really even research these that much. I don't really even today, I'll admit, I don't really even know much about 125s. I don't know which are the good ones, which are the bad ones. I don't know whether the Chinese ones are good or bad, or whether they last a long time, or whether the engines blow up, or whether they rust a bit. Maybe they do. But I just bought it because it was there and the price was right, and I thought it'll fit a thing that I need it to do. But I didn't overly go down the rabbit hole of owners forums researching, because it's not a big spend. It's a simple bike. You know that expression. I'll paraphrase it so we don't offend anyone. Simple bike, simple life. And I think that does actually apply. When you have a bike that doesn't cost that much, you don't worry about it. You just enjoy it, and you're not kind of frantically searching to try and address its flaws. You know that the bike's flawed. The sooner you get on and accept the flaws, the better you'll feel. And that doesn't just apply to bikes, it applies to everything. You know, cars, houses, relationships, everything around you, your career. Acceptance is the key to happiness. Thanks for listening.